This tutorial is a series of videos outlining a number of steps to build a full Spring Boot application featuring a Kotlin service backend, a Java client, and a JavaFX user interface. In the last video, we created a JavaFX Spring Boot application that shows an empty line chart. In this video, we're going to see how to set up auto configuration for Spring Beans so that we can use beans defined in our stock client module in the stock UI module. Let's go to the chart controller class we created in the last video. This class is going to be responsible for updating the data we display on the line chart. Remember that this project is made up of two modules, the stock UI module that contains the JavaFX application, and the stock client module that contains the code that connects to the Kotlin stock price service. Our chart controller needs to use the web client stock client from video 2. It will use this to connect to the stock prices service. This stock UI module doesn't have a dependency on the stock client module, so we'll get IntelliJ IDEA to add this. You can see it does this by adding the dependency in the maven pom.xml file, so this dependency is managed by the build file, not by the IDE. Now we can import the web client stock client class. Let's add a constructor parameter so it gets wired in. IntelliJ IDEA helps us here as it tells us there are no beans of this type available. Let's fix this. Back in the stock client module, we need to create a new Java class. Let's call it client configuration and add the configuration annotation. Here we'll define our beans. We want a web client stock client bean. To create one of these, we need to pass in the web client. We can get IntelliJ IDEA to pass in a parameter for this, but we still need to define where this comes from. One way to do this is to define another bean, which is a web client. We can use the web client builder to create a new instance. We can also annotate this method with conditional on missing bean, which means this method will only be used to create the bean if a web client bean doesn't already exist. We're using this here because it's possible that something else that uses this code might also create a web client. Back in the stock UI module, we still can't see this bean. That's because it was defined in a different module, and this module can't see the beans defined there. Let's share the stock client context with the stock UI module. One way to do this is to create a meta-inf directory in stock client, and inside this, create a spring.factories file. Inside this, we want to set the property enable auto configuration and define a configuration file. This will give other modules that use this module access to the beans in our client configuration file. Now, when we go back to our chart controller class, it knows where to find the web client stock client bean. Thanks for watching.